For the first time since Grenada's independence, a major political party on the island has taken a definitive position on the decriminalization of marijuana. To date, Grenada remains one of the few Caribbean islands where there has been a zero-tolerance policy on marijuana possession, as well as zero policy movement on marijuana reform. This is happening against a backdrop of increasing arrests and raids by the Royal Grenada Police Force of marijuana growers, farmers, and other private citizens. This morning on the Bub Report, we are joined by Mr. Kennedy Roberts, who is the Interim Public Relations Officer of the National Democratic Congress, to discuss his party's pronouncement in St. George's on the decriminalization of marijuana for recreational and medicinal purposes last week.
And the National Democratic Congress is aware of the CARICOM report being presented almost 2 years ago in 2018. And as a result, it is important that Grenadians have the opportunity to discuss the content of the report and make a decision, because it is impacting the lives of a significant portion of our country.
This is a preparatory step, of course, as recommended by the CARICOM Commission, to render marijuana as a controlled substance rather than a dangerous drug. And therefore, the decriminalization of the drug for medicinal purposes and in limited quantities for personal use in one's own house.
Also, the Bub Report examines the reasons behind the increasing incidence of childhood cancers in Grenada. In a recent study by Catton et al. That was published in the Springer International Journal, concluded that there were nearly 1,000 new cases of invasive cancers diagnosed at the St. George's General Hospital between 2000 to 2018. This number increased exponentially during this period to also include many children. Here to discuss the incidences of childhood cancer on the island are pediatrician Dr. Alison Burnett and Lions Club members Amika Edwards and Wendy Labari. We welcome you to yet another edition of the Bub Report on this fall Sunday here in Washington, D.C. Washington, D.C. has been thrown into mourning following the passing of prominent jurist, the late Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. I am Kellen Bub, and happy Sunday. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to yet another edition of the Bub Report. I welcome my friends out there in Grenada. Thank you for joining us. And of course, it has been the end of an eventful week here in Washington, D.C. As the U.S. elections kicks into high gear this fall. The Bub Report reflects on the passing of the late Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. As the daughter of Jewish immigrants who fled Nazi Germany, her rulings on the court also reflected her immigrant background and her immigrant legacy. And it also subsequently affected people of Caribbean descent here in the United States. For example, Justice Ginsburg, back in 2018, dissented in every case brought by the current administration against immigrants. One prominent case was a decision on the long-term confinement of Caribbean and other immigrants in immigrant detention centers. And while the court ruled in favor of the Trump administration, Ginsburg dissented. Also on the question of deferred action for childhood arrivals, in which there are many Grenadian and Caribbean beneficiaries, Ginsburg said that the Trump administration was, quote, arbitrary and capricious in its recession of the Obama-era program, which, in her view, was a violation of the Administrative Procedures Act of the federal government, and of course made Justice Ginsburg transition peacefully. Over in Grenada, the former principal of the Presentation Brothers College, which is also my alma mater, and he's also my former principal as well, is leaving Grenada after more than 20 years of dedicated service to the island as a Presentation Brother. Brother Robert Fanovich will be taking up a new role in St. Lucia with the Presentation Brothers. I want to personally thank Brother Robert for the profound impact he had on my life as an educator and mentor. He is an avid environmentalist and passionate educator. I wish you the very best, Brother Robert, on your new journey. I would certainly pay you a visit whenever I am in St. Lucia. But let me first welcome my first guest today. He is Mr. Kennedy Roberts of the National Democratic Congress. Kennedy, I wish to stand corrected on in my intro. I said that you were the Assistant Public Relations Officer of the party, but you are actually the General Secretary.
No, I'm actually the Deputy Chairman and Spokesperson on Health and Social Security.
The Deputy Chairman. Thank you again. I stand corrected. Okay, Mr. Roberts, now last week your party made a policy announcement with respect to the decriminalization of marijuana. And of course, you framed your argument on the decriminalization solely based on the 2018 CARICOM report. That report, first of all, was published back in 2018. It was, I believe, the CARICOM Commission on Marijuana. Right. Now, the report was released 2 years ago, Mr. Robert. Why did it take your party so long to essentially make a pronouncement on that report? Are you now seeing this report?
Not at all. On the contrary, I want to start by thanking you for inviting me to come on, and best wishes to the viewers and listeners. The reality is this report is 2 years old, and the NDC, as you would appreciate, has been going through some changes after the last election in 2018. We now have a new political leader, Sister Franca Bernardine, who it's just under 1 year. We want to acknowledge that, yes, there are a lot of issues that needs to be addressed. However, in the last several months, the focus has been on planning. The focus has been on getting to Sister Franca to get adjusted to the position of leader, try to ensure that the team can gel a bit more. And then COVID came. But this issue has been on the agenda for a long time. And the CARICOM heads of governments many years ago have decided to look into the issue. The report took about 4 years, extensive research visits throughout the region, including Grenada, and forums conducted, data collected, and the report was presented. Now, the NDC believes that, especially in recent times, as your intro said, there's greater awareness that the people who tend to get convicted, get arrested, get charged for marijuana are people in the lower income bracket, people who are unable to handle the criminal justice system. And as a result, you see this issue of marijuana almost targeting a certain segment of our society, and this is not equitable. We also realize that the issue of marijuana has now been on the international stage, and there's overwhelming evidence to show the medicinal benefit of it. So we know from a medicinal purpose, it is clear. But what we have realized is that this government has not made any steps in the direction of even discussing the report. And it is said that several on several occasions, the leader of the NNP decided not under his watch. Of course, we know how his mouth can change at an instant because of politics, and we were aware that this issue needs to be addressed publicly. So after a lot of discussion, a lot of deliberation, because as you would appreciate, there are different groups in the society that will try to influence one way or the other. But we, after a lot of dialogue, felt that it was the right thing to do. So yes, it might be a bit late since the report is out, but we believe that it is the right thing to do. We've put it on the agenda within the context of the region, because we feel that this is the entry point where that report has tremendous details on almost every aspect. It's really an education in cannabis. And we would see that report gives a lot of the answers that people are still saying we need to research and clarify. So we wanted, as a policy move, to start at that level, but we wanted, the simple thing is, if NDC is given the opportunity to govern, we are going to decriminalize and legalize marijuana across the board.
Mr. Roberts, you keep bringing up the report, and I get the importance and the significance and the currency of the report within this context. But former Senator and Attorney Anselm Clouden has been advocating this issue for decades in Grenada. In fact, in many circles, in many respectable circles, as I like to call it, he was ridiculed for making marijuana an issue, right? He was called some names many decades ago for being the weed lawyer, right? In hindsight, has Mr. Clouden's cause du jour been legitimized in a way that it has not been in the past?
Well, it has been legitimized throughout the world. So it doesn't take the NDC to add its voice for it to be legitimate. We see the injustice over the decades, how especially the US government collaborated with our region in persecuting the Rastafari community to hunt down the growers of marijuana in the hills and do all sorts of things. This, we realize, was a gross injustice. And like Prime Minister Gaston Brown did in Antigua, the government at some point in time must apologize to the Rastafari community for the abuse that has taken place over the decades, because they had a just cause. And because of the system, because of the illegal nature, and that's why sometimes I reassure people, not because something is in the law means it's right. The extreme example is apartheid. It was the law, but the world didn't see it as right. And for many years, Brother Anselm Clouden and others have been saying it publicly. A lot of us have been saying it privately. But now that I'm part of this organization, now that I'm in a position to influence and to contribute to the policy issues, I am one of those who advocate and believe that we have to discuss the issue. We have to put it on the national agenda and hear what is going on, because the impact on youth, the impact on the vulnerable, the impact on the disadvantaged is greater than the average population. And I believe the discussion needs to take place.
Now, Cassandra Mitchell said, good morning, joining late. What is the next move after announcing this? And before you answer, which stakeholder groups have they met with? Now, to dovetail to what Cassandra suggested there in the comment section, your political leader in the press conference also suggested that you would encourage consultation with, for example, churches. Now, I am singling out churches here only because churches would tend to have a conservative view on this. The marijuana, again, to my mind, is more of an exercise in a secular activity. But what about consultation? What would consultation look like? I mean, you have people in Grenada like Mr. Saisha Williams, who has been another advocate of marijuana. So are you going to be consulting with other groups, and what would that look like?
Certainly. Well, we wanted to put the policy position out openly first, because we think it was an important first step. What we have in plan, we already have a forum planned for the youth on Monday the 28th. It should be publicized in this week here. And it is going to be a Zoom session, because in this COVID environment and so on. We're going to be focusing on use of the technology, but we also intend at some point in time to have some more face-to-face interactions. So we are going to be coming up with a schedule. We have to talk to the chamber, the Council of Churches, and other organizations, and we're setting those up as we speak. As a matter of fact, some discussion has already been done at a one-on-one level. So we are going to be rolling out a range of meetings over the next several months, but we're also going to be listening to what's going on social media. We have a Facebook page where we encourage people to make their comments, and we're going to be responding to those things. And we realize that we're not in government to change legislation, but we also have access to the Barbados legislation, which was recently passed. We have access to the experiences from Jamaica and Antigua, St. Kitts, St. Vincent to share. We're already speaking with persons from the various islands who are in the business already and can share their experience with us. So we believe that an information process to educate the population about what are the positives and negatives, and also to highlight that the NDC is not seeing this in isolation. They're seeing it as part of a whole comprehensive range of issues. And as the spokesperson on health and social security, this being, I see it as primarily a health issue first and foremost, but it's also an economic issue. It's an agricultural issue. So it's a very intersectoral approach that needs to be taken to address it. But one of the things that we are going to be highlighting is to look at the impact on youth, and especially measures to reduce the possibility of young people engaging. And in a similar way, we are going to be looking a lot closer at the issues of alcohol and tobacco within the context of their use and consumption and so on. We've come a long way, but there's a long way for us to go still.
And finally, it would appear that in your press conference, again, would we be seeing a trend where your party would be rolling out policy proposals? What's next?
Okay, there are several policies that we have discussed and will be rolling out bit by bit. As I said, the party has been doing a lot of work in the strategic planning and prioritizing what are the issues. And of course, with our theme, putting people first, issues relating to people are going to be in the forefront. So I can share, based on my portfolio, one of the things that we're working on is looking at a more comprehensive approach to social security. Mm-hmm. We see social security as a pension fund and not seeing it as something that is needed from birth till death. So we are going to recommend some policies with regards to social security, and with NIS being our main social security institution, taking the first step, for example, giving every child born a unique identifier number, like your social security number in the States that you get at birth. To me, this is a simple step that we have the technology, the database to facilitate 100, 200,000 people easily. So we believe that social security is going to be an area we are going to highlight. When you look at this COVID situation and the amount of persons who are not paying contributions, who all sorts of issues relating to social security, that needs to be tightened up to really deal with people issues in a more comprehensive way. So yes, you're correct. We're going to be outlining policy after policy over the next several months.
All right, Mr. Roberts, I also would be interested to hear what your policy is with respect to Grenada's diplomatic relations with the people of but we are out of time. I have to get to headlines. Mr. Roberts, thank you again for appearing on the report, and I hope to have your political leader on in the lead up to the national budget in Grenada. Thank you. Have a good Sunday. Bye-bye.
You too.
Do you remember what happened when you first went to hospital?
I had cancer.
And did you know what that word meant?
No. People come by me and then they look at my back of my head and then they ask what it is, so I tell them. And I say that when I was younger, I had a brain tumour in the back of my head.
You just don't expect to hear the words cancer when you're talking about your child. That first 72 hours for us was really, really terrifying. You try to be strong for the family. At the end of the day, you know, you're only human after all.
When my hair started falling out, my dad was just devastated. I've never seen him cry before.
I didn't think I was strong until she was diagnosed. It took everything. I had to stop everything to be there for her.
Sometimes she would be upset, but I wouldn't really understand why. Seeing me like that, it broke her heart. So I was like, why am I here? I felt worried.
I think she does worry in the back of her mind about it, but even if it's just a tummy bug, she says, I need my hospital. The cancer's still in me, she'll say.
I remember saying to my dad, I don't think I can do this anymore. He's like, man up and get up and do it. You got to. And I think I knew at that point I needed some help.
Let me take this opportunity to welcome Dr. Yasmin Allison Burnett and Ms. Amika Edwards of the Lions Club and Wendy Labari, who's also the Lions Club. I know that your organization, the club, you have a week of cancer awareness in Grenada, especially around childhood cancer awareness. We will get into that shortly. But I want to begin with you, Doctor. Why do you think that there has been, in recent times, an increase in cancer incidences among children in Grenada?
Good morning. Thanks for having me. I look at it in a positive way. I know it sounds strange to say something is positive about finding more children with cancers, but what that says to me is that we are more aware of it, and therefore, because we're looking for it, we're finding it. And if we find cancers in children earlier, then their chances of survival increases significantly. We can treat them, we can get them better. And the other side is that our methods of diagnosis or diagnostic tools are increasing. So it may be a positive and not a negative factor. One of the things to note is that when we look at childhood cancers as compared to adult cancers, whereas adult cancers, we have a number of them that are environmentally related or lifestyle related. In children, that doesn't happen. So, except in a few cases. So, for example, when they had that Chernobyl radiation outbreak and everybody was affected, and the radiation, this wasn't a normal situation. This was an abnormal situation where the excess radiation caused increase in childhood cancers. But except for those rare instances, cancers in children are generally not lifestyle or environmentally related. So it is, we would have to look to see. I doubt that there is anything like radiation or anything like that in Grenada that's causing it. So nobody should get alarmed or worried about it. I see it more in terms of, because we're more aware and our diagnostic tools are better, then we're finding more of it.
Mm-hmm. With respect to the diagnostic tools for detecting cancers in children, how are they dissimilar to the tools that are used for adults? And what does I guess a detection look like in Grenada? How would a parent go about proceeding to find out if their child has cancer?
Okay, so in terms of identifying the cancer, what I say to parents generally is be aware of your child and pay attention to them and notice the differences in them. The symptoms of cancer in children are non-specific. So one of the things is that, one, do your annual checks with your child. So when the children are small, we do their immunization and we always take them, they're growing. We want to check on them. We want to give them their immunization, and they get to 2 and 3 years and we park them and we leave them and we don't really check them again. If we're doing their regular checks annually, then we increase our chances of identifying these problems in terms of the cancer. The other thing is when the child complains, pay attention. So the child who is fatigued, is always tired and wasn't like that before. The child who looks pale, looks like the blood is weak. The child who is falling more frequently, doesn't seem to be seeing properly. The child who is complaining of frequent headaches. The child in which you're noticing, there are these lumps and bumps coming up over them. They're not sick or anything like that. Then when you're seeing these things, don't assume it will go away. And two, don't assume that the child is malingering. So if your child is falling frequently, don't tell them, you're too clumsy, be better. Pay attention to it, let them be checked to make sure there's nothing that is going on. And once we are doing those things, then we will be more likely to pick up the cancers. In terms of the identification, it is more not so much in terms of the child and the adult, but the type of the cancer and what tests we need to do for those types of cancers.
And what are those specific tests?
Okay, so in terms of the children, the most common childhood cancer we will find is the leukemia, the cancer in the blood. And the first thing we would do is a simple blood test. So, and this is one of the things for the parents. If your child is looking pale, this child, the child doesn't have sickle cell or anything like that, and the child is just looking pale. Don't assume, okay, maybe the blood is just weak, let me give them some iron, go and do a blood test. Because leukemia sometimes just show up by the child being pale, because what is happening is that the cancerous cells are replacing the normal cells in the bone marrow, and therefore, they're looking pale. So the child may be just looking pale, and then you would do that blood test. And when you do that blood test, apart from seeing that the child is anemic, you will see these abnormal cells. So the next thing we would want to do is look at the bone marrow where the cells are produced, and that is called a bone marrow biopsy. So we will take a sample of the bone marrow, we will look at it, we will see what types of cells are there, how many of them, etc. And then the third step is, can we look at markers and the types for the cancer to see, well, what treatment works better and what doesn't. And then we will develop a treatment plan for the child.
Okay.
Yes, go ahead.
Yes. Okay, Micah and Wendy, thank you guys for joining us. Your organization, the Lions Club, the Lions and the Leo Club, right, of Grenada. Why did you get involved in this particular cause at this moment in Grenadian history? Who wants to go first? Anyone can jump in. Micah? Amika, your audio is a bit low, so you might want to remove those headphones. Yeah, it's a bit low there. But Wendy, maybe you can join in.
Okay, no problem.
Yes.
All right. Well, as a Lions member, we are known for being caring men and women all over the world. We are 1.4 million women and men throughout the world. We joined this movement because we are a community of good taking action and making a difference. We are known for assisting with one of the main causes that was given to us by Lions Clubs International, which is childhood cancer. Hence, we are part of this project in this month. Childhood cancer is celebrated or recognized every September. We normally would have various areas we would engage in to make the nation aware that it's childhood cancer. Hence, we are here with you today.
Micah, let's see if we can
hear me better.
Yes, we can hear you much better. Perfect.
All right. What we find is that over the last 5 years, as a group, we have been contacted in regards to assisting children who needed to travel for financial assistance. So we're seeing the need in terms of organizing funding and making it aware of the situation, that is going on within our society.
And what does the weekend activity look like? What would that look like moving forward?
Okay, so we have had a month of activity beginning from September the 1st. So far, we have had a Zumba for the kids. We have had with Mrs. Kristen Lashington that was held last Saturday. After the event, we had information being delivered to the kids in terms of symptoms to look for. If they're feeling sick, let their parents know. We have also given them fruit bowls to encourage healthy eating and so forth. We have also encouraged persons to wear gold, which is the color of the symbol used to commemorate children and families going through who are suffering with childhood cancer. We have also tried our best via social media to disseminate information so that persons can be informed of what is currently occurring in Grenada.
Okay, and how are you going to be engaging with specifically parents? Because I think that is a big thing, right?
That has been a challenge for us.
Mhm.
However, as I said, because most of the times when we are contacted with children with cancer is because they are in need of funding to go. And most times by the time we're assisting with funding, are already left the island. And sadly, by the time they come back, is because the children may have passed on. So we do not have much interaction with them. However, what we are trying to do is that we have adopted the pediatrician ward in the general hospital. Every Christmas we go, we give gifts and so forth, but we are trying our best to see if we can do it maybe quarterly to be more engaging. And at that point, we'll be able to know the children before the end stage and the parents as well.
That is a very good point. Again, community involvement in the general hospital, because as we aware, the hospital is challenged, right?
Yes,
With
it is.
respect to the care that it is able to deliver to the Grenadian people. Wendy,
yes.
Any thoughts on challenges with respect to parents, getting parents much more attuned to what's going on in their children's lives, especially around health?
Okay, well, I think what we can do as a club in particular is encourage persons to maybe attend the health fairs and see if they can bring in their children at that point so that they can be tested. A doctor can look at them and do their regular vitals, and then, if necessary, pass them on to the appropriate persons that can assist there. Because I know sometimes we give so much of our time and our energy to see how we can help our communities, and once persons are not affected, they tend to not be as interested in attending whatever is necessary to help them be aware of what is happening. But we're hoping that persons, even if they are unable to afford, when we have the free health clinics, they can bring their children in, they can have them tested, and we can see how we can work with them from there.
This is a very interesting point you raised about, persons attending free health screenings and things like that. I mean, what is, and perhaps a doctor can help me with that. With respect to primary healthcare in Grenada, the primary healthcare infrastructure, I remember growing up as a child in Primrose in St. David. So we had a community doctor. You probably know him, Dr. Rao.
Yes.
He would make house calls. He would make house visits.
He is a lion, actually.
He's also a lion. Look at that.
Yes, he is.
Know that. But Dr. Rao would make community house visits, but there was also the health center. And I remember growing up, the health center was always filled. I'm not on the ground in Grenada, so I don't know whether or not the same thing applies, right? Whether people actually go to the health centers as they did before. What have you seen a change in how people seek out information on their health?
Well, like I said, what we have noticed is that most of the time persons actually come out to get assistance is when they realize something is wrong.
Mm-hmm.
It's not very often that you would see them doing I remember when I was a child, we would go back to the health center every August as you prepare to go to school in September. Your parents would get you whatever shots you need. So as you prepare to go back to school.
Mm-hmm.
But from how we are seeing it, it's not as frequent anymore. And in my opinion, maybe we even have more healthcare systems, healthcare clinics within the various communities now. But yet still, persons tend to, I don't know if it's because they cannot afford to, but even the healthcare itself is free. They just don't want to spend the time to wait their turn. I don't know what it really is.
Right, the health screenings, primary healthcare in Grenada, is supposed to be free, right?
Yes, as far as I'm aware, it's still free.
Right.
It is still free, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Dr. Burnett?
Yeah, the primary healthcare system is still free. It is still available. But like I said, it's this complacency that we get that, like when you were saying, the child is not sick, so we're not going to spend the time. Because the health center is usually filled, and when you go, you have to wait for a long period of time. And the child is not sick. The parents don't, put that effort and that time in. So as I said before, one of the things we need to emphasize is these regular checks that the children need. So if we can tag it onto something like tag it to their birthday, for your birthday, I will give you a gift and we will go and do your checkup to make sure you're well. Or tag it onto school. September, you're moving up into your new class, and therefore you get your new uniform, you get your new books, and you get a health check. And you put it in a positive light so the children don't get scared. I'm going to the doctor and the doctor is going to prick me and stuff like that. And the parents recognize the importance of it because, as I said, unfortunately, in developing countries, we're still seeing a lot of deaths from childhood cancers. And most of these cancers can be cured. We have found a cure for it. But when we identify them too late, there's not much we can do. We're doing what we call palliative care. So they're past the point of recovery and there's not much. So bring your child out. Just spend a little more time. Plan it in. Make it a part of the birthday. Instead of planning a big birthday party, take that same time and carry the child to the health center and make it a big deal and a pleasant thing. And that would be better for the child. So we need to pay attention to these things.
Now, Lorna Charles is making a point here, and it's a question which I'm going to pose to the doctor. She says, you mentioned that the causes of cancer in children may not be environmental. Where are the epidemiological evidence that shows children cancers are not environmental? Is it possible that the parents of those children may not have been exposed to environmental issues such as pesticides, asbestos, or pollution from vehicles? I guess she's saying whether or not the parents were exposed to environmental things there. What say you, doctor?
Okay, so that goes back to looking at the cause of cancer and how cancer develops. So you have the cancer cell is basically a rogue cell, so it stops behaving normally. Something affects the cell and it no longer behaves normally, and it multiplies too fast. It doesn't get the correct things inside the cell and it doesn't function normally, and it doesn't understand when to stop growing. So it eventually replaces normal cells and it cannot function. There are two things that will do this to the cell. Some things we have no control over. So it comes into the genetics. Then you're looking at like the age of the person. As you get older, then certain, you're more prone to getting cancer. The gender of the person, there are some cancers that you see in males, in females, etc. Those things we have no control over. The things we have control over, like our diet. When you're looking at the cancers associated with diet, like your stomach cancers, your cancer of the colon, those are not found commonly in children. The cancers we see commonly in the children are, like I said, the blood cancer, the leukemias. Leukemias, except for when there is excess radiation from a radiation blast, is not related to environmental factors. So the cancers we see in children are not the ones that are related to the environmental factor. The brain tumors as well. The brain tumors are again not related to environmental factors. So we see brain tumors, cancers in the blood, cancers in the kidneys, cancers in the bone. In the adults, we will see the cancer in the stomach, we will see breast cancer, we will see prostate cancer, we see cancer of the cervix, we see cancer of the colon. These cancers are the environmentally related one. In terms of things like asbestos, exposure to asbestos can cause cancers, but that is, again, it's a different kinds of cancer, and it will cause cancer in the lung in the same way smoking will cause cancer in the lung. So when I say that generally, so you can have secondhand smoke affecting the person. So if a child is in the house with a chronic smoker who is always smoking in the child, the risk of the child getting bronchogenic carcinoma increases. but this is like an extremely rare situation. It's not the common ones. So yes, so things like that. Asbestos also does cause cancer, but is not a common cause of cancer. So if you look at the total number of cancers in children, the ones that may be related to things like smoking from the parents, asbestos, etc., is so small that we will not put it as a major environmental cause. However, what we need to do is, in terms of prevention of cancers, we look at prevention of cancers in the children, and we look at teaching the children and preventing cancers in these children when they grow up. So if we teach these children proper habits, lifestyle habits, etc., then we can prevent them from having adult environmentally related cancers. So you teach them to eat properly, etc. The habit that a child develops stays with them. If you have good eating habits, yes, it doesn't mean you'll never binge somewhere, but generally you will always eat healthy. So you teach them those things and it stays with them. So when they become adults, they're less likely to get the adult environmentally related cancers.
I mean, eating healthy in Grenada is very expensive, doctor. It is very expensive, in notwithstanding that it's an island that is surrounded by fresh fruits and vegetables. But if we were to follow the food pyramid, which as a health communication scholar, I believe is outdated. I think it really needs to be revamped to reflect and the evolution in dietary habits and things like that. But won't you agree that there are issues with respect to access to healthy foods in developing countries?
Yes, there is, but then you need to join me in my new project. So I am not Grenadian by birth, I'm Grenadian by adoption. So I don't own property in Grenada.
Still Grenadian, we claim you still.
I claim all Caribbean countries. I'm a Caribbean woman. Anywhere I go, I belong.
And you're a Caribbean woman.
Sorry if you want to push me out, but I belong there.
Okay.
I am renting property. I don't own property. So what I have started doing is my porch garden. So I get my pots because, like you said, vegetables can be very expensive. And when you have finicky children who don't like, I will only eat tomato, child number 1 will only eat tomato, child number 2 wants cucumbers, child number 3 wants cabbage. Where you're going to get everything from, you don't have the money to go and buy all of that. So I have started my porch garden. So I buy flower pots, or like if you have empty containers that you have, just pour some holes in the bottom, and I get soil, I put it in there, and I plant my stuff on my porch. So no, my porch doesn't have flowers. My porch has no flowers. It has my vegetable patch.
Okay.
So that is something that can help. It doesn't solve the problem completely, but it helps. So I have tomatoes there. I have bell peppers, I have seasoned peppers, and in terms of like general seasoning, my thyme, my scythe, etc., I have all of that growing, and my porch looks beautiful with all of my flowers. So my vegetable flowers. So I can invite you, do a little bit of that. It doesn't solve it completely, but every little thing helps.
So we have some comments here. Sam James is saying that early screening is a problem in Grenada. We treat symptoms over and over, and when the cancer has been detected, it is already too late. Now, let me go back to Amika and Wendy from the club there. How are you partnering with doctors, with physicians, and how are you partnering with folks perhaps at the St. George's University as well, and with the public health authorities in Grenada?
Over the years, we have partnered with St. George's University, and every year we have tried to hold health fairs where persons can come to do preventative care and so forth. Again, you always find these health cares, not much people are showing up. You will find the older people are showing up because they would have had diabetes and hypertension and all of that. But in terms of all the other areas and the young people, you hardly find the young people coming out to these health fairs. And you hardly find parents as well bringing their kids to these health fairs. So we are trying, again, as we said, we are trying our best this year into 2021 to engage more with the Ministry of Health and SGU to try and do these projects more.
I mean, your organization seems to be pretty young as well. Again, I don't know what the demographic profile is. Again, young, again, is also relative, how you define young. But how are you, and I would direct this question to Wendy, what strategies are you using to really get young people, to really take their healthcare seriously?
Well, for one, what we've been trying in particular is to see how we can go out there and make people aware of what is happening. We see on the news, we see on the TV, we see on the internet what is happening, but yet still, especially men, are seemingly afraid to go get checked. So we have done workshops where we had a doctor come in. They speak on dialysis, for instance. We have had technicians come in and said, look, the cost it is when you come to St. Augustine to have dialysis done. We have outreach programs where we bring in a doctor whose background is on diabetes. They let them know, look, how your diet has to change. As you just mentioned, it costs. Let us see how we can avoid these things before we have to get to this case where we have to buy all this medicine and we have to then see how we can try to attempt to take care of ourselves when it might have been already too late.
Mm-hmm. And you reference men. I think you make a very important point. I have uncles who wouldn't go to the doctor.
Yep.
For their life, they would not go to the doctor. There are certain screenings that men are very uncomfortable with taking. One of them would be the prostate exam, right? So again, outside of cancer awareness, what other health activities are you involved in? Any other kind of health promotion activities are you involved in?
Yes, well, Diabetes Month is in November. In the past, we've had where we've been to primary schools, we've had the children tested, we've done tests. We even had instances where that was the first time children got to find out that they were now diagnosed with diabetes from a result of us going there and doing the testing. So we worked with the principal and teachers at the various schools to get the special healthcare they would need. The principal would liaise with the parents so that they can go further and get whatever is needed as a result of now becoming diabetic. We have also done vision screening, whereby we, again, with children as well as with adults, we go to the schools, we screen their eyes, and in conjunction with Clear Vision Eye Center, if necessary, after their vision is screened, if glasses is required, we will bear the cost of that for them.
You would bear the cost because, again, vision is very expensive.
Exactly,
right?
exactly.
All right, so we will take our final break and we will be back to wrap up. Thank you for staying with us, folks.
We all start life as one single cell. Then that cell divides and we're 2 cells, then 4, then 8. Cells form tissues, tissues form organs, organs form us. These cell divisions, by which we go from a single cell to 100 trillion cells, are called growth. And growth seems like a simple thing because when we think of it, we typically think of someone getting taller, or later in life, wider. But to cells, growth isn't simple. Cell division is an intricate chemical dance that's part individual, part community-driven. And in a neighborhood of 100 trillion cells, sometimes things go wrong. Maybe an individual cell's set of instructions, or DNA, gets a typo, what we call a mutation. Most of the time the cell senses mistakes and shuts itself down, or the system detects a troublemaker and eliminates it. But enough mutations can bypass these fail-safes, driving the cell to divide recklessly. That one rogue cell becomes 2, then 4, then 8. At every stage, the incorrect instructions are passed along to the cell's offspring. Weeks, months, or years after that one rogue cell transformed, you might see your doctor about a lump in your breast. Difficulty going to the bathroom could reveal a problem in your intestine, prostate, or bladder. Or a routine blood test might count too many white cells or elevated liver enzymes. Your doctor delivers the bad news. It's cancer. From here, your strategy will depend on where the cancer is and how far it's progressed. If the tumor is slow growing and in one place, surgery might be all you need, if anything. If the tumor is fast-growing or invading nearby tissue, your doctor might recommend radiation or surgery followed by radiation. If the cancer has spread, or if it's inherently everywhere like a leukemia, your doctor will most likely recommend chemotherapy, or a combination of radiation and chemo. Radiation and most forms of chemo work by physically shredding the cell's DNA, or disrupting the copying machinery. But neither radiation nor chemotherapeutic drugs target only cancer cells. Radiation hits whatever you point it at, and your bloodstream carries chemotherapeutics all over your body.
Welcome back, folks, and let me bring back Dr. Burnett here. Now, Dr. Burnett, cancer screenings are expensive, aren't they not?
It depends on the type of this cancer screening. It's more the diagnostic tests are very expensive, but like some basic screening tests, like your Pap smear that the woman should do every year, the prostate testing, they checking your stool for what we call occult blood to see if you have any colon cancer. Those are not very expensive testing, but definitely once you identify it, then to type it, etc., becomes very expensive, and to treat it even more expensive. So therein lies the problem.
Yep, but and the other thing, one of the observations that I've made in doing research for this program is that you find that, especially with respect to colon cancer, for example, that the incidences of colon cancer occurring in persons of a much younger age. Now, in speaking to my primary care physician a couple of weeks ago, we spoke about, again, the standard of care, because, so for example, insurance wouldn't cover a colonoscopy if you are over a certain age. You have to justify why you need a colonoscopy, right, in order for the insurance company to cover it. I think I'm saying all of this to say, are you observing that there has been a demographic shift in the occurrences of cancers from what the standard would be? The expectation is that after you reach the age of 50, for example, that certain cancers may begin to emerge. But now we're seeing those cancers are occurring in people who are much younger than that standard age.
Yes, but that's also related to lifestyle. So previously, think of our grandmother's generation. They walked to the farm every day, so they were getting a really good workout, better than what we get in the gym, because they were carrying all their tools on their head. So they were getting upper body, lower body, abs, everything together. Then they go and they farm manually, so they were still getting more exercise. They ate what they grew, and they were growing things very simply without adding so much of the pesticides and weedicides that we're using. So they were growing their own stuff and eating it. So their lifestyle was very simplistic and, more healthy and more holistic. So now that we have moved away from that. We're no longer walking, we're driving. So we're not getting as much exercise as we used to. We are much more sedentary. That is adding to our weight, to our obesity, that adds to what we call metabolic syndrome and makes us more prone to chronic diseases and to cancers. Our diet also is more fast food. So we're not getting enough of the basic foods, not enough fiber in our vegetables, etc. So we're moving away from our traditional diet into the more fast food diet. So we're not getting those things there. And therefore, we increase the risk. We are increasing our risk. And because of that, with the chronic exposure, then we're seeing more of the cancers and seeing them earlier. So when we stress about lifestyle diseases and lifestyle changes, it's not a quick fix. It's a total overall. You're going to change the way you look at your life. You're going to change the way you live. And it is not a bad thing. Eating your vegetables is not horrible. I shouldn't be, I fight with my kids to the children when they come in the office and, oh, vegetables are yucky. I don't like it. And we have to negotiate. Well, they're not all bad. Come on, we can eat some of them. Can you give up one soda every other day and put in one vegetable for me? But, I have to be doing that negotiation with the adults as well in terms of, come on, eat your vegetables. It's not so bad. And it is not I eat it today. It is I add it in my diet and it stays in my diet. Exercise. I'm not saying walk to work, no. But we can get our exercise in during the day. So when you get to work, don't park at the closest spot to your office. Drive to the farthest point in the parking lot. Park even if the parking lot is empty. Go to the furthest distance. Park your car there and walk. So you're getting some exercise in. You're walking from your car to the office and you're walking back when you're going home. When you're going to lunch, don't jump in the car and drive to the restaurant or wherever you're going. Take a walk, find a good restaurant close by, take a walk. So you're getting your walk in. You have to get something to the office upstairs. Instead of making a telephone call, walk up the stairs. Put it in. You just put those little things in, and it is not, so you get an alternative. So I'm not saying go back to putting load on your head and go to the field and use a hoe. No, I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is with our modern lifestyle, there are ways to put health back into life. And that's what we need to do, put health back in our living, not regress with our development, but with our modern development, put health into it. And it like I said, these little things, it doesn't have to be so difficult.
All right. Let me bring in the folks from the Lions. And I believe someone corrected me. They said you are the St. George's Lions Club. So again, I apologize. I wish to note that correction for the record. But folks, Amika, I will start with you. Any final thoughts as we wrap up?
We're just asking the general public, that when you see us out in our numbers and we're asking for donation, it is for a worthy cause, always for a worthy cause. So we're asking you to please donate. We are also asking persons to be kind. Children who are going through the process now, or parents, on a Sunday evening, you cook a meal, send it over to the parents, and that will help them to comfort themselves and know that there's a community behind them, supporting them and encouraging them and adding strength to them. And we're pleading parents to please engage in more preventative care methods with your children. As the doctor suggested, every September or August, you bring them for their yearly checkup and ensure that. And also, we are also asking parents that do not wait until the final stage to contact us. We are a part of our international bodies, and for the last 2 years, we have raised $3.5 million in regards to funding for childhood cancers. Now, if you come to us at the final stage, by the time we put through the proposal for these grants, time has ended. So as soon as the children are diagnosed with cancer, get in contact with us that we can see the best way that we can help.
Wendy?
Yes, Mr. Bob, first of all, thank you so much for accommodating us today. We also want to say thank you to the Grenada public who have been generous in their donations over the years. To the business places, we've now celebrated 55 years in St. George's as a club. And without their support, the general public, even if it's 25 cents when you see us out there, it goes a long way. We just want to say thanks at this point. We appreciate all you've been doing for us, and we hope we can continue to serve you for another 55 years and more.
All right. Thank you, folks. Thank you, Dr. Burnett, Mr. Roberts of the NDC, and Amika. Thank you guys so much for another wonderful edition today of the Bub Report. Next week, folks, we have here, there has been a lot of discussion recently with respect to diaspora and the role of the diaspora in Grenada's development. Now, part of that narrative seemed to suggest that because you live in the diaspora, that you should not have a say in what happens with respect to Grenada's development. In fact, we contribute 4% to Grenada's gross domestic product. That point has to be made. But next week, we will be delving more deeply into the diaspora policy. It is a proposed diaspora policy that has been worked on in conjunction with His Excellency Derek James, the Consul General out there in Toronto, and a group of other people. We've also invited the Honorable Peter David. He is the newly minted Minister of Agriculture. Some suggested that he was relegated to the Ministry of Agriculture, but we will be bringing him in to also discuss diaspora. He calls the diaspora the 15th constituency. So we would love to hear Mr. David's thoughts on the new diaspora policy and how it can actually be codified and made into law, so that our contributions as members of the 16th constituency, shall we say, are properly documented and given credit in Grenada. Folks, let me thank you for another edition of the Bub Report. Let me ask Kennedy and Mike and the folks to stay in the green room for a post discussion. Thank you. Have a wonderful Sunday. Bye-bye.